Dog fans. Welcome to another episode of Dog News Daily Live, presented to you by DoMyOwn.com. Just such a crazy week this week in college football with the transfer rule. We'll get into a little bit of that here in a minute. We'll talk a little bit about last week's game against Mizzou. We'll recap that, and then we'll get into a preview of what the Dogs are facing this week in a rattled Tennessee team. But first off, I want to thank our sponsors at DoMyOwn.com. Actually had an experience with them this week regarding some ants in my backyard and on my front walkway. Instead of being a weekend warrior and going out to the local box store and ordering and going and buying something, like the rest of the public is doing, I got online this week right as I noticed all the ants, the ant trail in my front yard and backyard. Got online, ordered the Max Force granules. They showed up one day later, fast, free shipping. And now I don't have to face all that crowd. I can make all my kids' weekend games. I can be in front of a TV for the Georgia-Tennessee game this week. And now I'm DIYing like a pro. So shout out to those guys at DoMyOwn.com. Thanks again for the support at Dog News Daily. And thanks for the help this week with the Max Force granules. So let's get into, it's week 5 here with Georgia coming in. Probably the worst game Georgia's played since, probably 2016, Kirby's first year. Just didn't look enthused. That is, within 11 a.m. local start time, 12 p.m. Eastern, I thought that they would come out a little sluggish, a little just not all in. I'm not saying that Georgia didn't think they were just going to walk in and win that game. They definitely have a lot of respect for Mizzou and for the quarterback, Drew Lock. But they just came out and the offense just didn't look good. And this is 2 SEC games in a row where the offense did not look very good. We'll get into a little bit of that here once we start digging in on that 3 and out report. By the way, we're posting that every Thursday morning for you guys to review on our previews and the keys to the upcoming weekend game. So be sure to check out for that on our in-depth analysis and what we think is the keys to the game. But Georgia comes out, looks a little sluggish. Thank God for a strip fumble return for a touchdown by Tyson Campbell. Otherwise, in a block punt by Eric Stokes, for the touchdown. We get 2 defensive touchdowns and 2 field goals by Rodrigo in the first half. If not for those, that strip could have easily been called, that ball could have been called dead. And, hey, that's a very close game in the first half. And, not saying that, Georgia goes in and loses that game, but that definitely turns the tide a lot in that game. So that's something that Georgia's really going to have to come out firing. Their defense kind of led them in the South Carolina game as well in the beginning. So that's kind of Kirby's mantra, let the defense lead. Don't turn over the ball on offense. Fromm has not sure if that's a Mecole problem breaking off the route or a Jake on the throw, but either way, that's a turnover on our opening drive, which is, that's a cause for concern. They come out, make second half adjustments. Once again, I'm not sure what Kirby's saying to these guys here at halftime, but there's some mornings I need him to come wake me up and give me a pep talk and get me ready for my day. They came out, looked a lot different. The offense looked a lot different. You get Riley Ridley for a touchdown, Holloman with a touchdown. I can't even believe the drop ball and almost disaster that could have been. And then you get Mecole wide open on a deep throw down the middle there. So the offense picked up there in the second half. They pulled away. Georgia was up about 3 touchdowns. 20 to 21 points. It felt like most of the second half. And they kept on just letting them get into the game. On the red zone defense, the interior line and interior defense in general, the linebackers, they seem to be playing a little bit more for the pass. Not sure why in the red zone we would be so concerned about that, especially within where they got really close, to the 5-yard line. We were more concerned about stopping the pass. We only had 3 down linemen, and then going in and playing probably a handful more D-back or defensive backs than we typically would. So they get 4 rushing touchdowns up the middle on us. One, Drew Lock holds on the RPO and carries it in. But that's a cause for concern for Georgia, especially when they're going to be playing these teams like LSU and Auburn. looking at how Kentucky's playing, that might be a cause for concern how in their physicality, how they're running the ball up the middle. So that's something that they're going to need to tighten up and get a little bit more physical, a little bit stronger up the middle. So that is definitely a cause for concern. They come off sloppy. Hey, we win by 14 points on the road in an SEC game. You got to give it up. When you say, hey, we played our worst game in almost a year and a half, that's kind of the standard now for Georgia is to play up to this level and not play against these teams coming out looking sluggish and not playing your A game. But I'd say if I was going to give that grade to the overall game, it's a B minus. Didn't look very good. Kept on letting the team back in and making that almost a ball game. Giving up a field goal block. There's a missed blocking assignment there. It looks like some 4th and 1s, some 3rd and 1s were some questionable run calls. The blocking up front was not very good on those plays in general. We get Andrew Thomas gets rolled up on. Cade Mays comes out there, fills in for him again. You get Ben Cleveland, unfortunately, has a broken fibula. He's going to be out. I've seen 6 to 8 weeks. Some people are hopeful for 4 to 6 weeks. That's a big boy to heal that fast. But they're going to slide some guys over here this week. We'll get into that here once again in a little bit. But Georgia comes out 43-29 in the 43-29 victory against Missouri, and now we're on here to Tennessee. Before we jump into that, I want to talk about the last week of September and what it's going to look like now going forward with the new transfer rule. As many as you already know, there is a new redshirt rule where a player can play up to 4 games, and then they have an option to go on and play to transfer if they're not happy with their situation, they've fallen on the depth chart, whatever the case may be. This is going to be a cause for concern. I know everyone's excited about the players finally having freedom. I'm not sure how I feel about that. The last week of September now is going to look like the trade deadline in basketball and football and baseball, where players are coming out just this week at Clemson. Monday morning, Kelly Bryant from Clemson comes out, is demoted as the starter. And by the way, he played a lot in that Texas A&M game and actually was the leader on that team, leading them to that victory. When it was crunch time, he was the one playing, not Trevor Lawrence. He just comes out and says, hey, I lost my job. I don't think I was given a fair shot. I'm out. And that's something that's a cause for concern. If Trevor Lawrence, he looks good. He looks good. But if he gets hurt or he has a slump, they can't just bring in Kelly Bryant, the veteran on the team, the leader on the team, it looks like, and help save the game. He knows that offense. So that's definitely a cause for concern for Clemson. They're in trouble if that freshman quarterback cannot pull it through. Here's one thing that I'm thinking about when regarding to Georgia, you only can play one quarterback. So I've seen on some boards, and I've got some messages and emails here to Dog News Daily on social media, go to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We've gotten some direct messages asking, what are our thoughts on Justin Fields? Is he going to leave? Who else could be in that mix? You only can play one quarterback at a time. And as much as everyone wanted to hype this summer that it was a quarterback battle, it wasn't. It's Jake Fromm's team, and they're going to try to find some ways to get Justin in the game and get him acclimated. They definitely don't want him, now we'll call it the waiver wire, right, and start looking and transferring. We definitely don't want any other coaches in his living room anytime soon. But he is the kind of player that he's going to have to get some reps. He's going to have to get some time. He's coming from a spread offense. From Harrison High School there, and then now coming into a pro-style offense. It takes some time. With Trevor Lawrence there at Clemson, he came from a spread offense. Now he's right back into a similar spread offense there at Clemson. So that transition is a lot easier for him to where Justin is really having to learn about the check downs, learn about the protection packages, they'll probably, they put in some RPOs there for him and give him some chances. But, in that Clemson offense, it's more of if it's a one-look read and if it's not open, we're running. You're probably looking at your second read at most. You don't really see them going to a third look. Where Georgia, it's 1, 2, 3. You're scanning that field, and then you're getting a chance to run. So not too concerned with that. With him transferring this year, should be interesting next year though. If the playing time is not divvied up a little bit more. Some others you can look at on the team. The depth chart is crazy on the offensive line. You could probably look at some guys. Notori Johnson could be one. I wouldn't be surprised. He's not even on the travel squad right now. He was a highly regarded offensive lineman coming out of high school. Just hasn't, hey, Kirby's is going to recruit, and you just have to know at the University of Georgia, you're a great player, but guess what? Kirby's trying to bring guys in at your level, at your position, at your skill level, all across the board. We can't just have one good quarterback on the squad. We can't just have one good linebacker and one good offensive lineman. So there's a lot of depth at a lot of positions. Not to single out Notori there, but I think there's a lot of guys there that could possibly after the year. I don't think you're going to see any announcement like that within the year. I think Kirby's just going to keep that tight-lipped as much as possible. These guys might not see some playing time. They've already made their decision, but I don't think you're going to see any type of announcements during the middle of the year. It'll be similar to last year at the end of the year after the bowl games and after the national championship. So that's something I wanted to bring up to you guys. I've gotten a lot of questions about it. So there's some guys on defense that I could talk about. There's some guys on offense, on the offensive line. Not sure about receivers or running backs really leaving anytime soon, but there's some depth concerns for a lot of guys, not for Georgia, but for a lot of guys that may have fallen down that pecking order. That they believe they want some playing time, and that's where that's their choice, and they might move on to another team, another opportunity. So, all right. We got our 3-and-out report, as I've mentioned earlier here in the video. We're posting that every Thursday morning. It's kind of our keys to the game, the 3 keys, 3 positions, 3 things that we're going to be looking at the game that we think are difference makers in the game. We're posting that every Thursday. It's going to be a little bit more in depth if you want to read into it. I'll get into it and answer a lot of questions here on it for you. But please be sure to go to dognewsdaily.com, 3-and-out report. We're posting that every Thursday morning. So our keys with Tennessee week. Tennessee turned the ball over 6 times against Florida. I watched a little bit of that game. Looks like, as much as Todd Grantham, and we all recall him here at Georgia, he likes the blitz. He loves the blitz. He loves the blitz on 3rd and long. It's just kind of his MO. But they're getting a lot of push on the defensive ends, on the defensive line, pushing up on Tennessee and really causing Tennessee's quarterback, Guarantano, to have some issues and to force the ball. They had 6 turnovers, guys. So that game got out of hand fast. And I don't care if you're playing Sisters of the Sisters of the Mary, you're not going to win any games. Turn over the ball 6 times. So 47-21, I believe, is the score in that game. I don't think Florida is 26 points better than Tennessee. I don't think Georgia's 32.5 points better. So when that spread came out, that line came out, that's a sucker's bet if you ask me personally. I don't think Georgia covers that spread. I'll get into the score prediction and game prediction here a little later, but I don't think Georgia covers that spread. I think Tennessee's a little bit better than that. I could be wrong. Especially if they turn the ball six times again. But first thing I want to look at in this game is the interior defense. I just mentioned it, a cause for concern watching the Missouri game. Really want to see Rochester, Barnett, and some of the others that are coming out. Natrez Patrick has come out. Carter's come out. So that's something that Dog News Daily and our staff here, we're really looking at and going, hey, is that a weakness? We thought a couple other guys would step. Rochester's going to really need to step up here in this game, and especially the rest of the SEC path here. Vanderbilt's going to be physical up the middle. You have the trip to LSU. That's going to be a physical game, and there's going to be a lot of running up the middle. So that's something that they're going to have to toughen up on. I expect this week. Georgia was so concerned with the spread offense and the passing attack of Mizzou we played a little bit more nickel package and more players out in the defensive backfield instead of having guys blitzing and rushing. DeAndre Walker showed up in that game and was just an absolute monster, proved to be a difference maker. We actually called him out last week in our 3-and-out report, and he proved to be a defensive just monster for Georgia last week, and put a lot of pressure on Drew Lock. He had actually his worst performance against the Dogs in his 3 years, and he's actually so far this year throwing for 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, a couple fumbles, I believe, as well. But the interior line, I want to see if we can stop the run up the middle, and get them in some 3-and-outs, and get them some stops behind the line. That was a huge thing. Tyler Clark in last year's Tennessee game was just was wreaking havoc on the offensive line there, and was getting into the backfield. And Georgia really didn't have to blitz very much. So that's something that we're looking for. They're going to need to step up and make some stops there, and just be tough up the middle. You can bet that that Helton, the offensive coordinator at Tennessee, watched that game film from last week, and they're going to try to run up the middle there to see if that's something that Georgia has fixed. Next up is Jake Fromm. Once again, comes out in the first half, throws the pick. Second half, he got settled down and made some good passes, but still, there's some choices. We're a little. I'm not going to use the word concerned, but there's some questionable throws that we're seeing there. Some, there's some timing issues, so we want to get that cleaned up. So that's something that we're looking for Jake to do here in this week. One thing with Jake is as well, that RPO last year, he scores, I believe, 2 rushing touchdowns in the red zone against Tennessee with that RPO where he's pulling that, he's reading the defensive end, and he's faking the handoff, and he's running. Now, he's, for being the quarterback that he is, he's going to be more of a pocket guy, but he's got some speed. He can tuck it and run. So, and I've noticed twice in the Missouri game, especially where that was wide open, for a 15, 20-yard game probably, where he hands it off and we stuff it up the middle. So I want to see that game. I want to see a little bit more poise. I want to get back to that efficient game that we expect from him. Was very questionable on the red zone offense for Georgia. We settled for a field goal there in the first half. We get the turnover. Tay Crowder gets the turnover, runs it down to, I believe, the 5 or 7 yard line, and then we bring in Justin Fields for the 1 yard or for the quarterback draw, and that was just an obvious play that they saw coming, and then they yank him out. I thought that was a perfect package for him to maybe run another RPO, put some pressure on the defense. We take him out. And the next 2 plays are fades and throws to the left corner. That one was caught. He was out of bounds. Foot was out of bounds. The next was just an overthrow that wasn't going to happen. We settled for a field goal down there. When we get inside the 10-yard line on a score, it's 1st and goal. We got to score some touchdowns, especially in these next few games coming up. So some questionable calls there by Chaney, but he's a lot smarter than I am when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. But 1st and 10 inside, or 1st and goal inside the 10-yard line. Your Georgia football, we got to run the ball. I expect Fields to get a little bit more play because I do think the game gets out of hand in the second half. So I expect more than 1 play for Justin Fields. So that's something that we're looking at and see a little bit more time and playing time for Fields there. The next and the third key to the game, I think it's the first half offense. So it's not a position, it's not a certain player, it's the entire offense. As I mentioned earlier, we have scored 1 touchdown in the last 2 SEC games we've played. That's including the South Carolina. The only touchdown that we've scored in the SEC offense is DeAndre Swift's run around the corner here. I think it's a 10-yard touchdown run, maybe 17-yard touchdown run. 10-yard touchdown run around the corner. He scores a touchdown, and there you go. That's our only touchdown. The rest are field goals and defensive touchdowns. As us Dog fans know, we'll take the touchdowns however we can get them. But you definitely want to see a strong start we want to give we want to kind of put the knockout punch on Tennessee this game. I would imagine if I was a Georgia coaching staff, I don't think they have the offense to really catch up with us. They do have some very good players, some talented players on that team. The running back he's a home run hitter and he can score, but I don't think they in a shootout. I don't think they have the weapons yet to play like that. I really don't think they want to play like that. But that's something that if Georgia can go in and they can put up 24 points in the first half, that game may be over. So that's something that I want to see them come out. I want to see a couple touchdowns in the first half and just show that that's just a rut that we've gotten into. I really can't tell if that's something with Georgia, if we're just coming out vanilla and trying to scheme and see what the defense is doing, and then in the second half get our offense on track, or if that's something we're just having some struggles. I can't tell yet. That's definitely some questions for Kirby. I would be asking in the press conferences, but they definitely need to start picking up the slack there in the first half and punching the ball into the end zone. As for a score prediction, game prediction, I'm expecting those first half woes to be fixed a little bit here against Tennessee. I'm expecting a physical game. Both coaches preach the word physicality in their slogans for their programs. So I expect a physical, tough game. This is a rivalry game for Georgia. It is one for Tennessee. They battle against each other all the time for players. So this is something that they're going to come out inspired, meaning Tennessee. I think Georgia comes out a little inspired. They're back home. So I'm expecting a probably a pretty closer game than we would probably think. I think Georgia's up probably 10 to 14 points in the first half. They pull away. We lean on them a little bit more with our offensive line in the second half. Our depth is there. It's obviously going to be a plus for Georgia, really against the majority of the teams that we play this year. So I think as long as the game goes on and we want to establish the run, I think DeAndre Swift has a big game this week. I'd like to see, he's got 16 carries last week, which is a career high for him. I expect that to be maybe a breakout game for him. He says he's 100% healthy from a nagging groin injury that he's been dealing with. He's been actually getting some treatments on a daily basis every morning here for the past couple of weeks. So I expect a big game from Swift and Elijah Holyfield. One of them is going to top the 100-yard mark. I'm going to go in, and my score prediction is going to be 38-10. I think Georgia comes out inspired. They fight through the struggles maybe of the first half and pull away in that second half. So let's say they put up 20 points, 21 points in the first half. They're going to put up 17 in the second and pull away. Last year was 41-0. I'm not sure we shut them out this week, but 38-10. They don't cover the 30. I think it's gone down to 31.5 points now. Not sure they cover that, but they definitely blow them out. A 28-point win against a rivalry is always a big win for the Dogs. So 38-10. That's what we're looking at. We also have another contest we're doing. The Dog News Daily shirts here. What you got to do? Get on Facebook, get on Instagram, get on Twitter, share or like or retweet the Dog News Daily homepage, not the tweet, the homepage. You can also throw a recommendation out there too if you'd like. We definitely would appreciate it. Guess the correct Georgia Tennessee score, the final score. If any of you guess the same exact score, once again, I have 38-10. The tiebreaker is how many passing yards will Justin Fields have this week? He went last week, it was 0. Everyone has struggled a little bit here the past 2 weeks. No one has guessed the score. So I'm loading up. I got a box full of shirts ready to give away in this contest. I got them in red as well. But come get you a T-shirt, guess the score correct. And as always, guys, go Dogs. So safe travels to all those heading up to Knoxville. We look forward to seeing everyone there. And we'll see you guys here next week. Thanks again for joining us.